For 10 years, Ethan lived in the mansion, a place filled with dusty memories and echoing silence. But there was always one rule his late father had left him: never, ever open the locked door at the end of the hallway. He'd walked past that door 1,000 times, its peeling paint and tarnished brass handle a familiar yet forbidden part of his life. But tonight was different. Tonight a strange curiosity pulled him closer. As he stood before it, the handle rattled on its own. Ethan froze, his breath catching in his throat. And then a sound that chilled him to the bone, a soft, echoing whisper from behind the door. "Ethan, set me free." He stumbled back, his heart pounding against his ribs. It was impossible. No one was supposed to be in there. He was alone in the house, driven by a mix of fear and an undeniable pull. He raced to his father's study. He frantically searched the old wooden desk, his hands shaking as they ran over stacks of yellowed papers. Tucked away in a hidden drawer, he found it, a small rusty key, carefully wrapped in a worn piece of cloth. Beside it, a note written in his father's familiar script read, "Time will obey you, once you dare." He hesitated for a moment, the weight of his father's warning pressing down on him. Then, steeling himself, he gripped the key and went back to the door. His hand trembled as he slid the key into the lock. The click echoed unnaturally loud in the dead-silent hallway. As he turned it, the very air around him seemed to vibrate, and then a sudden, complete silence fell. The ticking of the grandfather clock stopped. The howling wind outside ceased. He pushed the door open, and a blinding white light engulfed him, stealing his breath. When the light faded, he found himself in a world that was utterly still. The clock hands in the hall were frozen. Peeking out the window, he saw rain droplets hanging perfectly suspended in the air. A single drop of condensation from a glass on the table hung motionless just beside his face. "What happened?" he whispered, his own voice sounding loud and alien. Time itself had stopped. He stepped into the hidden room. Inside was a scene from a dream. Candles floated in midair, their flames frozen. Sheets of paper and books were suspended, as if tossed by an invisible hand, and in the center of the room stood a young woman, her eyes wide open but completely still, like a statue. Hesitantly, Ethan reached out and touched her hand. In that instant, she blinked. "You shouldn't have come," she said, her voice filled with an ancient sadness. "I was trapped when your father tried to control time," she explained, her gaze distant. "He locked me here to stabilize his experiment, to protect the world from what he'd done." Ethan's world tilted. His father wasn't a hero guarding a secret. He was a jailer, a prisoner of his own reckless ambition. "Then how do I fix this?" Ethan asked desperately. The girl looked at him with sorrowful eyes. "You can't," she said softly, "unless you're willing to sacrifice everything." Suddenly, the mansion began to shake violently. The frozen lights flickered. Time was starting to unravel, walls cracked, and moments from the past and future flashed around them like echoes. Ethan felt a strange sensation, a dizzying feeling of aging backward. "Close the door," the girl cried out, "before everything ends." He turned and ran, fighting through waves of frozen dust and ghostly apparitions. At the doorway, he paused. He saw two paths. One led back to his world, to normalcy. The other led to a frozen eternity where she would remain trapped. He looked at her one last time, her beautiful, sad face suspended in the chaos. "I'm sorry," he whispered. He slammed the door shut. Silence. Then a familiar sound. Tick-tock. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, filling the mansion with warmth. Everything was normal again, except the locked door was gone. In its place was just a smooth, empty wall. As Ethan stared at the spot where the door had been, the grandfather clock struck 12, and somewhere, carried on the air like a final fading memory, he heard a whisper. "Thank you for setting me free."